Hello my dear sewing friend, today's video is a step-by-step tutorial, quick and easy, so that way you know that I'm setting you up for success for a zipper fly front like this one. Now I truly find that a lot of times people are either deadly scared of zippers like this or really confused, or something just doesn't come out every time you try to do one. So if you fall in one of those categories, then this video is for you, and I truly hope that I can help you out. I will show you my method, quick and easy, very straightforward, so that way you can truly see how it's done, and from there you can adjust it however you would like. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Now first I'm gonna go ahead and cut out the practice piece for us, and that is by design, and I would encourage you to do the same, so that way you don't have the fear of ruining your actual project, so that way you have the room to make mistakes and to learn from them, because it's not a bad thing. It's all an experience, it's all a journey. Just give yourself that freedom to actually experiment and see where your sewing takes you. Now as you can see on my practice piece, I have also marked the seam allowances, and I did not cut out the whole pant leg, only the top part where the zipper fly is actually going to be. And we're going to need both the left side and the right side, as well as the zipper fly is gonna go right between them. Now as you can also see, the parts where the zipper fly is going to be attached are now as one pattern piece with my pant legs. And that is the easiest way how to get started with zipper flies. So if your pattern doesn't have these included, it's really easy. Just take the part of the zipper fly that is currently separate from your pattern and go ahead and cut it together as one pattern piece. Usually that is about 1.5 inches wide, so this part you can also draft it yourself. And mine I position right before the start of the curve, so it can be as long as you need depending on the design of your pants, but it is a good idea to end it before the actual curve of the pants start, because then it's going to be really problematic to get that zipper fly really nice and neat. First, let's go ahead and finish the edge that you see in red. I will be doing that on a serger, but you can also do that on your sewing machine with a tightly spaced zigzag stitch, with an overcast stitch, or any other method that you would like. Here's a quick tip. Before you get started, make sure that you either lower the knife or disengage the knife on your serger, so that way when you're serging this little bit right over here, you don't accidentally cut away part of the pattern that we will need later, or part of the seam allowance. So that is going to make your life so much easier. For this next step, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some interfacing, but please listen very carefully to what I'm about to say next. Now, super important to remember that right now, because I wasn't planning on doing that for this particular tutorial, I'm doing this after I have already serged the edges of the fabric of the front pattern pieces. For you and for me, and any other case when we're going to be working on any project, we're going to be interfacing it first and then serging the edge of the fabric. So just wanted to make sure that you guys get that part. Here, as you can see, I'm applying the interfacing to the fly portion of the pattern to the wrong side of the fabric, and I purposefully took some gray interfacing so that way you can see a little bit better where it goes on the pattern in my case. For this next step, let's go ahead and take your pattern pieces, place them right sides together, make sure that everything matches and aligns just like you see me do on a screen. Now we're going to be using two different stitches. We're going to be using a basting stitch and just a regular straight stitch. And for this next step, what I like to do is I like to make a little marking. First, here's the bottom of the fly, and take about 3/8 of an inch up and make another marking. Now from the top of the pattern all the way up to the first marking, we're going to do a basting stitch, then a back stitch, and then just a regular straight stitch all the way down. Now if you want, and if it makes it a little easier for you, go ahead and pin everything together and then adjust your sewing machine to a basting stitch. And let's go ahead and get started. So first, basting stitch, nice and easy, all the way up to the first marking. Then I do a little back stitch. Then I switch the settings of the stitch on my sewing machine to a regular straight stitch, and then I continue all the way down. I use my hands as sort of the steering wheel as I sew, and that makes it so much easier to navigate the curves, especially when you're sewing pants. Alright, once the stitching is done, let's go and see how it actually looks. And when I'm working on details like that, I always like to stress the importance of pressing pretty much after every step. It really does make such a big difference. So here I went ahead and I pressed the top part of the pattern open like so. Then I take my zipper and I like to press this metal part right over here, right at that first marking that we made in the previous step. Now the zipper right now is face down, so placing it face down like so, aligning one of the edges with the center front of the pattern, so with that seam that we just made in the previous step. And now we're gonna go ahead and pin it. Now please make sure that when you're pinning it just to that pattern piece and not to the actual entire leg, so just one layer of fabric. Here I decided that I'm gonna go ahead and scoot it a little bit lower, and then of course I'm proceeding with the same steps, just pinning it together. Alright, once everything is pinned, the next step is to stitch it. Now go ahead and make sure that you switch to the zipper foot. So grab the zipper foot that you have with your sewing machine and change it. And now we're gonna go ahead and sew. As you can see, I'm actually aligning the outer edge of the zipper foot with the edge of the zipper tape. And that makes it really easy and really simple to make sure that the line is all the way straight. All right, now that that is done, on to the next step. And for that, just follow the motions of my hand. This is what we just did. I specifically chose black thread. And now, just fold it over like so, super easy. Watch it again if you need to. And then I'm gonna just simply finger press it. You can of course press it with an iron. And now we're going to top stitch right here on the edge. So for this step, if it makes it easier for you, go ahead and pin it together with pins. You can also use basting stitch just by hand or with a sewing machine. Basting is also really great for the previous step as well. Kind of keeps everything intact, especially if you're working with a longer zipper. And now with the same zipper foot, I'm gonna go ahead and stitch real close to the edge. Now you might need to switch your zipper foot from one side to the other, and real easy, nice and slow, all the way from top to bottom. There we go. Don't forget to backstitch as well. I'm not backstitching here because this is just a sample, but don't forget to secure your seams. Now this is what we have. There we go. So this is what we have from the right side of the fabric. You see, you can't see anything. And then from the wrong side of the fabric, that's where all of the action is going on. For this next step, I let my zipper lay flat like this. Then I grab the left side of the sandwich and whoop, and I whip it out like this, and I lay it flat again. And now we're going to be working with the left side of the zipper, with the left side of the pattern. Go ahead and grab your pins, and let's pin the zipper to that little pattern piece. And again, we're only working with one layer of fabric and a zipper, so we're not stitching through the pant leg. We're only working with these pattern pieces. Now for this step, if it's easier for you, go ahead and baste it with a hand sewing needle or a sewing machine. And now we're going to stitch it. Now this time we're also going to be using a zipper foot, but I'm not going to stitch super close to the actual zipper, but a little bit on the edge. So here you go, you see the black thread, and you can see the difference between how we stitched the first time on the right side and how we stitched on the left side, so a little bit further away. Again, this is how it looks on the right side of our pattern, and if you turn it to the wrong side, this is how it looks right over here. You see the black stitching line, so that way it's a little bit easier to understand. We just did the left side right over here, and now for this next step, we're actually going to create that beautiful curved stitch line that you see on a lot of ready-to-wear zipper flies. So now I'm taking a marker and I'm just going to outline that little curved detail in the front. And when you're working on your actual project, of course, you can use a heat erasable pen or chalk or anything that was actually going to wash out after you're done. Now it's really important to know that this little metal stopper, that it actually is above that stitch line, so that way when you are stitching, you don't break your needle by accidentally getting on it. Now let's quickly go over it one more time. Here's that little metal stopper right here, and I'm making sure that it is above the stitch line that I just marked. And I also marked it right here with a marker, so that way I know that it is above and I'm not going to break my needle as I'm going to be stitching. Then start with a back stitch, and I do find that a lot of people do this in a lot of different ways. Some start at the top with a straight line, some start as I do at the curve. Whichever way makes it easier for you, as long as you get a good result that you're proud of. So I like personally to start at the curve, makes it a little bit easier for me, and then slow and steady. You can always pivot your sewing machine as well by lowering your needle into your garment, lifting your presser foot, pivoting as much as you need, and then continuing your stitching. As for where that stitching needs to go and how wide you can actually make it, a lot of times I think it might be a design choice, but in my case, I try to make sure that that stitching line from the top all the way curved to the bottom is catching the end of the zipper tape. Now that that is done, we need to undo that basting stitch that we did from the top of our pattern all the way to that first mark that we made earlier in step 1. So go ahead, grab your seam ripper, or in my case I'm just using a pin, and go ahead and undo those basting stitches, but only the basting stitches. Don't undo anything below that. Alright, once you're done with undoing and unpicking the stitches, it is going to look like this. Let me unzip it real quick. There we go, and pretty much at this point our construction can be done. It's not done yet in my case, but in your case, if you would like to stop, you can actually stop at this point and proceed with the rest of the pants or the skirt pattern or whatever you're making. But in my case, what I'm going to do from the wrong side of the pattern, as you see right now, it looks like so. This is the construction of our zipper fly. So I'm going to take a little flap or a little guard, you can call it whichever way you would like, and I'm going to attach it to the back of our zipper fly. So this pattern piece looks like so. It's just a rectangle folded in half, and then you can go ahead and serge or stitch it on the short end and on one of the long ends. Then we're gonna go ahead and place it like so on top of our zipper. We're gonna be attaching this little bit right over here, and then if you flip it to the right side of the pattern like so, this is how I'm going to attach it to the actual zipper fly construction. I'm going to stitch it right into that seam right over here. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. So I'm going to be stitching it right here in the same seam that we did at the very beginning of the construction of the zipper fly, and that is going to attach this little flap to the entire thing. So let's go ahead and do that. You won't be able to do that all the way to the bottom because obviously the zipper fly itself has already been done and made, but at least we can do as much as we can. Once that is done, I'm also gonna go ahead and tag this little corner right over here. Just a couple stitches back and forth, and I only want to catch just a tiny bit of it, just enough to keep everything intact. Once we have completed these two, here's a little close-up. The long black stitch line is the one that we did in order to attach this piece to the construction of the zipper fly. The little corner right over here was done in order to keep everything together and in one place. And that's it. Your zipper fly after this is done and dusted, and you're ready to move on to whatever is the next step in your garment sewing. Let me show you a completed zipper fly on these linen pants that I did just a couple of days ago, so that way you can kind of see how it all looks when it's all done. Alright, we have sorted this one out, and you might have a question, well, what if I want to install an invisible zipper, let's say in a pencil skirt, or maybe an invisible zipper in a side seam of a top or blouse? And I've got you covered because I also have a step-by-step tutorial for that one as well. Definitely click right over here. It will take you to a video where we do exactly that. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope this was useful, and until next time, happy, thoughtful, and creative sewing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye!